Hello, I'm Hannah and I'm going to show you how reserves work on your Scribe Lite account. So as part of your Scribe Lite package, you have two reserves set up in the setup menu and reserves. So if you have one or two reserves, then absolutely fine, you can use them individually. If you have more, then you will likely need to amalgamate the information to show if you want to show them on reserve. So you might want to have a total for your capital and total for all your earmarked. To edit them, you can just click the reserve name and then you can update the information. So if you wanted to rename reserve 1 to whatever it relates to, you can do so. So let's say we have placements, for example. You can add a further description. So if you are adding in for multiple reserves as one in Scribe, you might want to list out what it relates to. You can then select whether it is a capital or earmarked reserve, which is how it then shows on the report. All reserves will be open until you set them as completed, and then it will ask you when this reserve was first created. If the reserve is new in this year, then it wouldn't have an opening balance, but if you are adding in information about reserves that existed last year and therefore had a closing balance that's copied forward, you would need to enter a created on date that is in the last financial year. So at the very least, if you just put in the 31st of March, you will see that you then get an option to add in the opening reserve. So let's say I had £5,000 in this reserve. And again, you can add more notes if you want to add any details about any of this information. You can then click Save. And then we have reserve number 2. So let's say we also have one for elections. Again, if you need any descriptions, you can do so. Same scenario. This time I'm going to say it's an earmarked reserve. And again, it existed last year. So I'm going to put that information in. And I've got £2,000, let's say, in that reserve. So you need to add in that information accordingly against your two reserves. You can then just go into your setup and restate last year, which is the information we'll have put in from your opening balances in terms of the ones you've provided, or you may have entered in them indirectly. But in the funds tab, you just need to update this accordingly to what you've now told it. So the figures on the right-hand side that are greyed out are from what we've just added in. So I've got 5,000 for my asset replacements and the 2,000 in the election reserve. So that must match to what the Scribe is expecting in terms of the opening balances. So we need to put 5,000 in here, which is reflected by that reserve, 2,000 in there, that again is reflected by that reserve. And then what we need to make sure is that our general fund is adjusted accordingly so that the sum of the general fund, the earmarked fund, and the capital fund equals our box 7 figure as entered at the bottom. So what we're just updating Scribe so that it knows is last year's box 7 is broken down across these reserves. So if we click Save, it'll update accordingly, and then we can just go and have a look up in our main reserves menu further up in the menu options and run the reserve balance, which is your report. If you see a red error message when you run this report, there's something wrong with your opening balances. So do go and review the screen we were just in and make sure you've entered everything in correctly.